Path to Redemption is an anthology that aims to empower readers by sharing lessons from those who have had firsthand experience of being incarcerated to help to transform the lives of those who might be currently in the juvenile system, schools, and in our communities. And joining me today with more is the founder of Path to Redemption. We have Lester Young and two other mentors with Path to Redemption who are involved on the project. We have Holly and we have Melody. Thank you for joining us. Did I pronounce it right?
You can call me Mello.
Mello. Okay, we're gonna call you Mello today. Well, I'm so excited to have you all joining us today. This is great. So Lester, tell us why this was a need.
Two reasons. One is to really just highlight the experience of those who have been impacted by the criminal legal system, or those who have made some bad choices as a youth and now are mature adults, and they're using their lived experience to empower those youth, to help them understand that there's a different direction to go. And also empowering those who are working with the youth to show them that those with lived experience should be in that conversation and using their story to empower our community.
Now, I know all of you have a story of being incarcerated, and many of you have shared it, especially yourself being an advocate that we see frequently here in the community. But are you diving into your stories, or are you summarizing it? How are you all telling your stories in this book? In what way?
Just, if you don't mind, you want to share a little bit?
Sure,
Yeah.
definitely. So as for me, I was formerly incarcerated for almost 10 years, and my chapter is called Kill the Kid, Kill the King. So in this chapter, I felt that I was inspired by a sermon my pastor preached, and I said that really aligns with the work that we do. And I feel as though by us ensuring that the children are well, protecting the kid, they can become a king or that queen. And a lot of times they don't know the power that they have. They don't recognize their gift. So in this chapter, we talk about those things that are necessary to help them identify their gifts and talents, which is commitment. You have to be committed to what it is that you're saying you're going to do, especially when it comes to our youth. And on top of that is that consistency. If you're committed, be consistent, because they are just waiting for you to not show up, like so many people have done in their life. And that trauma, you have to build that trust. And once you build that trust from that commitment and that consistency, that's when the connection happens. And once the connection happens, you're able to help them identify their gift. And then they can take that throne that was already meant to be theirs.
That is so beautiful, and I'm so
Yes.
so glad to hear that you are talking about that child. You know,
Yes.
we all have that inner child that has either experienced trauma or some form of neglect or something, but a lot of the things that happen to us as children, they impact us as we're getting older, no matter what age. And so we have to address that child, and even the physical children while they're still children, because they're still impressionable, and we're still able to impact them at that age. So beautiful work. And I also have to acknowledge, before I get to Mello, you all, this is the same exact book, but all of you have your face on the cover of it.
Yes.
And there are 8 other people involved with this project as well. And speaking of which, we're going to go down the line here to Mello. Mello, talk a little bit about your chapter.
Well, my why was a little bit different initially because unlike a lot of the credible messengers that work with Path to Redemption, I didn't actually get to the point of incarceration. So as a young man, I had to walk that line of, you know, going down the wrong path, getting involved in criminal activity, but God leading me to a crossroads. And at that crossroads, he allowed me to see what would be the future of my life if I continue making decisions like this. I had to choose. Was I going to continue to take risk, or am I going to do what the passion that he gave to me is? And that's, for me, working with music. So my why is to help other young people find their purpose, find their passion, and be able to choose that instead of going down the wrong path.
I love that. I'm loving the messages that I'm hearing. So you all are not just telling and sharing your stories. You are using your stories to provide a message. And so you all have found the purpose in the trial or the season that you went through. And I really love that. And Lester, just talk a little bit about your chapter as well.
My chapter is really just highlighting the importance of having someone with a credible message to be able to connect with. I think about when I was a young person, how important it was for me to have that big homie who had made those mistakes, and he was able to pull me up and say, let me show you another way. And that was the thing that influenced me. So we using that same model in the community, inside of the systems and different juveniles and adult prisons about showing them how lived experience do play a role in the mentoring process, because now I can show you that this is what I did 22 years ago, which calls a 30-second decision calls me 22 years. Let me prevent you from doing that so you can enjoy your life and be able to connect to your purpose and do something more meaningful versus spending 20, 30 years in prison for a 30-second decision like myself. So we use those particular examples.
Okay. Now, I want to confirm. Now, is this just for mentors, or can anyone purchase these books?
This is for anyone who's working with youth. Rather, it isn't like if you just really just teachers, pastors, youth ministers. It's anyone just really understanding the power of your story. You could read this book because
Yeah.
you work with young people in
Yeah.
some form or fashion, using these stories to give you some tools to be able to empower yourself and create that connectivity with the young people that you're working with. I think this is where we're at right now. When Mello mentioned that crossroad is so important that we now have to value these lived stories and how we can continue to change the trajectory of our community by the lived experiences.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us and sharing just a little bit of what you can expect in these books, because again, there are 5 other stories, 5 other messages that people can get from these books, and you'll have to get the book for you to check those out. How can our viewers get a hold of this book?
You can get it from my website, pathtoredemption.org.
My website is hollytabreen.com.
And mine is melodicruckus.com.
Beautiful, melodic.